Yo, what's going on, guys? I'm Associate G, and before I get into this video, before I go off and I just start rambling forever, I understand that recreating the magic that the Lord of the Rings trilogy had is nearly impossible. Okay, I completely understand that. Um, However, the things that this movie did was weak. This movie was weak. I give this movie a 3 out of 10, and I don't even know if I want to give it that high of a score. It was a movie that happened, and it's not a movie that I'm going to go back and watch again, you know? Like, I get it. Like, Lord of the Rings, as I said, it's almost impossible to recreate, like, the feeling and, like, how Lord of the Rings is. I can put on Lord of the Rings and I can watch that any day of the week, extended version only because, I'm an actual fan. I can do that with I can put on the Hobbit movies, right? This movie is honestly, honestly, I think I would put the Rings of Power above the War of the Rohirrim. Okay? Like this movie was just bad, right? From the FPS being locked at 30 and then feeling like it dropped down to about 10 at certain parts because they didn't want to show like a whole lot of gore. Nothing really happens in this movie. Like there's no action scene. It's an anime. This is an animated movie. There's no action scene. There's no like really good stuff. And the stuff that does happen is like where it gets really intense is covered up by other things, snow or like something is like blocking your vision in this moment. Now I want to say, as far as how it looks, I think it looks very well. I think it looks very good. Okay, but the animations were not good. Like again, 30 FPS. That was such a turnoff for me. Okay, um, and another thing they did with the writing. Let's just talk about the writing for a second. Okay, verbally, good. Okay, everything sounded good. They talked fine. However, the storyline was weak. Okay, it had a good. Let me take that back. Let me take that back. The movie had a good storyline, and it's like, hey, this is something that legitimately happens, and is like, I can easily see this becoming a thing, and like, I would watch a Lord of the Rings movie that had this storyline and all that. However, the main character isn't someone that like it's not a main character like vibe. And plus like she's also a Mary Sue. Okay, everything that she has no real struggle in the movie. Okay, she is just a character that is there, and basically her storyline is like she's like I was born to a warrior father and like I want to be free and stuff, but like she doesn't push it like she accepts her like role, whatever, but she's like, I don't want to marry. I don't think about marriage and like, no, don't leave me alone. And then like she is a Mary Sue. Like nothing that happens to her is a challenge. Everything she figures out a way, everything she does is perfect and oh my god, it drove me insane. She's a main character that had no struggles, just like Rey did in the sequel trilogy for Star Wars, right? Like there's no risk. There's no risk whatsoever for her. Meanwhile, all these other people are actually doing the work and they're dying and shit. Okay. But part of the writing I want to talk about, I really want to go on the rant of this writing here. And Star Wars has done this too. Disney has done this. Okay. So what they've done is so first off, this movie takes place 200 years in the future. In the future. In the past. Okay. 200 years before Bilbo even finds the ring. Okay. Excuse me, I'm choking my own spit. And so what they've done, and I hate this with prequels. I hate this with prequel movies. They'll take something that happens in the original context, right? And they'll go, "Hey, we're going to have a character do something similar to this, or we're going to show this." And everyone's going to get hard and wet because it's like, "Oh, this character did it too. The characters are the same. They're the same person." Like they're not writing a character that I'm going to enjoy. They're not writing a character that I feel that I'm worried anything is going to happen to this character. Like Hera, her name's Hera, I think, or Hela. I'm never worried about her. There is no threat to her whatsoever. And like and like she gets saved many times, right? Like she doesn't do anything hero like. The only thing she does is she beats a guy in a sword fight that there was a flashback that we saw her beat him then. So that's it, right? And that I know it showed like a little 3-second clip. That's about as much sword fighting as she does. She beats that guy twice in the entire film, and it frustrates me. But they kept doing this stuff of like, hey, remember this thing that happened in the past? Yeah, stroke that fucking dick and like, you like how it's in this movie too? See how our characters did it first? See how you love our characters now? Like, fuck you. Like, her dad's name, the King of Rohan's dad, is Helm Hammerhead. Okay, one of the only few good things about this movie is that he makes a stand fighting to protect Rohan and like Helm's Deep, right? And that ties into at the end of Two Towers when Theoden is about to lead them out to like face the Uruk-hai, and he's like, "The horn of Helm Hammerhead shall sound in the deep one last time." But like, I was like, "Hey, I like that tie there. That's a good tie." Okay, like he stood, he made a stand, he was a hero outside of the gates, and so that's what they did. But his first name is Helm, right? And she's fighting Wolf, that guy right there, and he's like, "I will have the Hornburg," and she's like, "No, people, that's not its name anymore. People know it by a different name, Helm's Deep." And I was just like, the cringe that I felt when that was said, it gave me the exact same feeling as at the end of episode 9 when Rey is like, "It's Rey Skywalker." I was like, fuck you. Fuck you. She's so much like Rey. This girl is so much like Rey, but just in Lord of the Rings. Like everything she does is perfect, right? She struggles with nothing. And it just frustrates me. But something else, they did a couple other things, right? You have the king giving a speech to the riders of Rohan. They're about to go into this battle. And the speech is kind of similar to what Theoden said when the riders of Rohan got to Gondor in Return of the King. And then they're just like, "Death, death." And I was like, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. And then it's like, "Fourth, Ellingus." And I was like, it's so fucking weak. I was like, Bernard Hill did so much fucking better. I know I just butchered his name, but he did so much better in that speech. And like, you can watch that speech now. There's Lord of the Ring fans that watch this speech now, and they're just like, "Oh, I'm fucking coming." Like every time that speech like fucking happens, and it was weak there. And then they shot a death multiple times, and it was just something that I felt that took away from that speech. You're about to go into this big ass battle, and it's like, "Yes, awesome thing," and it's just like, "Oh, this is a rehearsed thing." It's like the kings like rehearse this speech, and I was just like, "Fuck you, man." So anyway, one of the things that happens that works out perfectly. So you have the main girl has a thing like with this eagle. She's trying to get this eagle to like coax this eagle so she can like talk to it and stuff and like maybe ride it one day. And that's outside of the capital city of Rohan. I'm blanking on the name right now. I've said it 1,000 times tonight trying to record this anyway. But for some reason, it's now at Helm's Deep. Okay, like it's there's no reason for it to be at Helm's Deep besides plot point. And then like she has it take this box to her cousin who has a bunch of men standing ready to at the king's call if like they call to like fight this war. And then he shows up, and when he shows up, he comes down the same hill that Carl Urban's character did in the Two Towers. Like they come down at the exact same way during the big fight, and I was like, "Bro, that's so fucking weak, man." Like there's just so many. That's one of the few things that they did that just it absolutely drove me insane. And oh my god, I'm gonna stop now. I'm gonna stop now because I keep going. I'm not gonna lie. I honestly went on for 26 minutes and I just rambled, and that sounds absolutely ridiculous because it just, I mean, it was actually crazy. Like how this movie's not good. The movie's not good. The animation's not good. Right? Like the story is not good. Hera, she's a Mary Sue who has no struggles in her life, needs no man, and is successful at everything. She has no confrontation whatsoever. I will say this because I just saw that ring on his hand. So there's a part of the movie where the king is presumed dead. Is dead. Okay, he is dead, and there's something killing the enemy army that's outside of Helm's Deep because they're building this siege tower to attack Helm's Deep, right? And they keep calling it a wraith, and it's just like, oh, and you see him take off this ring at the very beginning of the movie, and I think to myself, oh my god, that's one of the 9 rings they gave to the race of men. He's one of the ring wraiths. Nope, nope. They just call him a wraith, and like, yeah, like they had a whole like point that they could have done. It's just like, hey, here's one of the 9 ring wraiths. And now that I'm putting this out there in the universe, I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you right now. I'm pretty sure this was made by Netflix. I don't care. Whoever makes a Lord of the Rings movie, if you do something that is going to show any of the ring wraiths, any of the 9 men that become the ring wraiths, and their storyline, I deserve a fucking cut. I'm copywriting that right now. I am verbally internetly copywriting that shit right fucking now. It is 12/13. This video is going up on 12/14/2024. Okay? I own that shit. I own that shit. But anyway, movie's a 3 out of 10. The FPS, big bummer. The animation, big bummer. Like it looks good until they get moving and stuff, and then you see the frames and like all. It's. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop because I just keep going. I said I was gonna stop. I could just keep going forever. Like the video, subscribe, argue with me down in the comments. Peace.